Most people saw Mark Carney kissing the World Cup trophy, juggling the ball, smiling in a football jersey, and thought the same thing. That it was just a photo op, another politician showing up for a sports event. But that is not what this moment really was. Because when the World Cup trophy arrived in Ottawa and Carney stood there beside FIFA President Gianni Infantino, the real story was not just football. The real story was that Canada is preparing to host one of the biggest global events on Earth, and Carney's message revealed something much bigger than sport. It revealed that Canada is trying to turn the FIFA World Cup into economic power, national branding, and global attention. And that is why this moment matters far more than most people realize. At the event, Carney made a point of showing how much Canada's football story has changed. He said that back in 2012, Canada was ranked 112th in the world, and now it is among the top 30. Then he joked, in classic economist style, that this was a 75% increase. Now, the math was more playful than precise, but that was not really the point. The point was confidence. Carney was saying that Canada is no longer standing outside the football world looking in. Canada now believes it belongs on the pitch with the best teams in the world. And that is a major shift. For decades, soccer in Canada was treated as secondary. This was supposed to be hockey country. Football was often seen as an immigrant game, a youth game, or a game that Canadians enjoyed without truly owning. But that old picture no longer fits the country. Canada has changed. Its cities have changed. Its demographics have changed. Its international identity has changed. And now, football is becoming part of Canada's national image in a way that would have been hard to imagine a generation ago. That is why this trophy event matters. Because the World Cup is not just a sports tournament, it is one of the most powerful global attention machines in existence. When a country hosts the World Cup, it is not only hosting matches, it is hosting cameras, tourists, sponsors, media, investors, airlines, hotels, global brands, and billions of eyes. In other words, it is hosting economic opportunity. And this is where the TradEconomics story begins. Canada is co-hosting the 2026 World Cup with the United States and Mexico. It is the biggest World Cup ever, expanded to 48 teams and 104 matches. Canada will host matches in Toronto and Vancouver, and the country's first match is set for June 12 in Toronto. That is not just a sports calendar date. It is a national stage moment. Because in the modern economy, global visibility is not just prestige. It can become money. It can become tourism. It can become business activity. It can become soft power. And it can become a way of selling your country to the world. And I think this is what many people missed in Carney's appearance. He was not only there to celebrate football, he was there to help frame the World Cup as a national opportunity. According to FIFA-linked economic projections, the tournament could generate billions of dollars in positive economic output for Canada. That includes tourism, jobs, wages, local business activity, and tax revenue. But those numbers only tell part of the story. Because the real value of a mega event is not just what happens during the matches. The real value is what remains after the stadium lights go out. Does the country gain stronger football infrastructure? Do young players gain better opportunities? Do local businesses actually benefit? Do host cities improve their global reputation? Do the communities that built football culture in the first place see lasting value? Or does the event mainly enrich FIFA, sponsors, major contractors, and a small circle of insiders while public costs fall on ordinary taxpayers? That is the real debate. And this is where the story becomes more interesting than the usual celebration. Because every World Cup brings two stories at the same time. One is the story governments and event organizers want to tell. The story of excitement, tourism, international prestige, and national unity. The other is the harder story. Who pays for security? Who pays for transport upgrades? Who pays for policing, logistics, crowd control, and public services? And after all that spending, who actually captures the profit? This is why Carney's presence matters politically. He is not just another ceremonial face in the crowd. He is an economist. And every time someone like Carney shows up to bless a major event like this, the unspoken message is that this is not just cultural or symbolic. It is economic. It is strategic. It is part of how Canada wants to position itself. And that broader positioning matters right now. Because Canada is living through a period of economic uncertainty. Trade tensions can return. Tariffs can return. The relationship with the United States can become unstable. Investment competition is becoming tougher. Countries everywhere are trying to attract attention, talent, tourists, and capital. So when Canada hosts the World Cup, it is not just putting on a show. It is trying to present itself as modern, open, multicultural, globally connected, and capable of hosting the world. That image has value. And here is another part of this story that should not be ignored. Canada's football rise did not begin with politicians. It did not begin with FIFA. And it did not begin with a trophy tour. It was built over decades in immigrant communities, school fields, local clubs, women's football, youth programs, and parents driving their children to practice in every kind of weather. That is the real foundation of this moment. So, when Carney says Canada belongs with the best teams in the world, he is also speaking to a deeper shift in national identity. He is speaking to a Canada that is more urban, more diverse, more globally connected, and more willing to see football not as somebody else's game, but as part of its own future. That is a powerful message. But it also creates a challenge. Because if Canada wants to use the World Cup as a platform for soft power and economic gain, it has to make sure the benefits do not stop at headlines and ceremonies. The event must leave something behind. Better infrastructure, stronger youth development, lasting community investment, a deeper football culture, a stronger tourism reputation, and a clearer international profile. If not, then the World Cup risks becoming just another expensive spectacle that passes through, generates excitement, and leaves little behind except bills and memories. And that is why this Carney moment matters. On the surface, yes, people were surprised by how comfortable he looked in the football setting. The jersey, the ball touches, the trophy kiss, the relaxed body language, all of that helped make the moment feel fresh and memorable. But the real shock was not that Mark Carney could play with the ball. The real shock was that this event exposed something much bigger, that football is no longer just a sport in Canada. It is becoming part of the country's economic story, part of its branding story, part of its diplomacy story, part of its global identity story. In other words, Canada is not just getting ready to host football matches. It is getting ready to host the world's attention. And in today's global economy, attention is not cheap. It can turn into tourism revenue. It can turn into investor confidence, soft power, and leverage. So yes, Mark Carney may have shocked people by lifting the trophy, wearing the jersey, and looking more like a football man than many expected. But the much bigger surprise is what this moment tells us about Canada itself. From a country that once stood on the margins of the football world, to a country now preparing to co-host the biggest World Cup in history, Canada is no longer just watching the global game. It is stepping onto the field. And the question now is whether Canada will use this moment wisely, or whether the World Cup will become just another short-lived spectacle with a big price tag and limited long-term value. Because if Canada gets this right, the 2026 World Cup will not just be remembered as a football event. It may be remembered as the moment Canada used sport, visibility, and global attention to strengthen its place in the world. And that would be a much bigger win than anything that happens in 90 minutes. So what do you think? Is Canada about to turn the World Cup into a real economic and soft power success? Or is this just another overhyped mega event with more symbolism than substance? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want trade, economics, and geopolitics explained beyond the headlines, subscribe to TradEconomics.